Welcome to the CNBC Africa live debate coming to you from the 24th World Economic Forum on Africa in Abuja, Nigeria. We're talking Africa's growth outlook, and I'm pleased to say that we are joined by the heavyweights in our closing discussion. I'm joined to my immediate right by Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the Coordinating Minister for the Economy and Minister of Finance, Nigeria. Minister Pravin Gordhan, the Minister of Finance of South Africa. Minister Claver Gatete, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning of Rwanda. Jin-Yong, who's the Executive Vice President and Chief Executive Officer, International Finance Corporation, IFC, Washington, D.C. Hendrik, the CEO of Investec Asset Management, and Julian, the Group CEO of Old Mutual. Before we jump into Africa's growth outlook, and I'm expecting to have a very robust debate with the brilliant minds on this panel, I'd like to take a moment to throw forward to an issue that has gripped the world and that has gained international media attention and support. And I would like to turn to the Minister of Finance of Nigeria for a comment, an update on the missing Nigerian girls at this stage. Minister Okonjo-Iweala.
Thank you very much, Bronwyn. And I want to start out by just saying that we're very grateful and appreciative for the support that we've seen from the community here at the World Economic Forum, with over 1,000 participants in attendance, very little drop-off. It was a sign of solidarity for the girls. We will not forget our girls. We'll continue to fight to bring them back. The government is absolutely committed to that. The government has sent additional troops, is doing aerial surveillance, and is working with some companies who could provide additional information that can help us with satellite imagery. As you all know, the governments of the US, France, the UK, and China have also offered help with the aerial surveillance, satellite imagery, with capacity building, intelligence, and various other offers that have been made, and we're waiting for these to come through to bolster our efforts to bring the girls back home. After the World Economic Forum, we will not forget, we will not relent. This is what we'll be focused on, and we are very grateful for the international community's support on this issue.
Minister, thank you for that. And in solidarity with the missing Nigerian schoolgirls and the Nigerian government, we will be using the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls for the duration of this live broadcast, and we'll be using that in tandem with the hashtag #AfricaGrowth.
Sorry, Bronwyn. There's also, I want to add here one very concrete outcome of this forum, which is the launch of the Safe Schools initiative. I think it's safeschools.org by the UN Secretary General's envoy, Gordhan Brown, together with the business community in Nigeria, who have pledged $10 million to make our schools safer. And they said they would put it if the government would put a matching grant. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan just announced that we will put the $10 million from the government to match what they have offered. This is on top of all the other efforts that are being made at the moment. This is additional to that. So Safe Schools.
Minister, thank you very much for that. And we're going to amend our Twitter policy on the fly. We're going to go for a triple hashtag. So you're going to go triple hashtag. It'll be Africa Growth, hashtag #BringBackOurGirls, and hashtag SafeSchools.org. Let's move on to Africa's outlook and the growth outlook. I've attended a number of sessions during the World Economic Forum, and I think the easiest way to conduct the next hour is to look at Africa as a wheel, with brand Africa clearly in the middle, and all the different spokes, all the different discussions that we've been having over the last 2 days as elements to the smooth functioning of that wheel, brand Africa. Education, health, inclusive growth, obviously the overarching theme at the World Economic Forum here, and creating jobs, the empowerment of women, poverty reduction, power deficits, infrastructure, the young population, intra-Africa trade. I'm going to throw it now to Minister Gordhan to say, or to give us an update on what he thinks is the biggest risk to brand for the 2014 period.
Well, let's start with the optimistic. And the optimistic is that for the next 20 to 30 years, that what you call brand Africa is not going to disappear off the global stage. Africa is part of humanity's future now, as it was part of humanity's past. And if we look at how developments have taken place across the globe, it's Africa's turn. Africa rising is an absolutely appropriate adage for the current moment. And there are more things going for Africa, including the kind of leadership both in terms of thought, but also in terms of political will that is emerging than going against Africa. What are the risks? Well, clearly Africa works and operates within a global context. So although we are witnessing a global recovery from the Great Recession, and the recovery has less risks than what we've had over the last few years, there are still unanticipated risks, if you like, in, for example, the European banking system. Secondly, quantitative easing and the tapering measures that the US Fed will still be taking. And the world hasn't quite, through its multilateral institutions, resolved how negative spillover effects taken by, as a result of actions taken by big economies in the world, must be managed in the right kind of way. And the third is our own inability, if we get to that point, to continue the transformation processes within Africa across all of the areas that you've mentioned. And I think this forum certainly has provided lots of food for thought in relation to job creation, better education systems, better living conditions for our people, but also how to find new paths to industrialization for the African continent.
Minister Gordhan, I stand corrected. I'm an Afro-optimist. Let's go with the positives rather than the risks to that growth story. So, Minister Gatete, you can blame Minister Gordhan for the fact that I've just changed the question to the opportunities to grow that 5.5% growth rate.
Yeah, thank you so much. Indeed, I remember the difference between an optimist and a pessimist is that the optimist dies happily because he's still hopeful. So by becoming optimistic, I think I can say that we are really getting the leadership that we need. When you see the number of heads of states who are coming to such a sessions, I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you, and also you've got a mic on the your lapel.
So if you see the number of the leaders, especially the heads of states and the prime ministers coming to this session, it's something that is very, very positive, showing leadership. But also for Africa really to grow and achieve this objective that you are mentioning, it's very, very important that we don't look at ourselves inward as different nations. We have really to focus on regional integration. We are seeing the benefits in the East African community, where, for example, in the Northern Corridor, we are seeing that the heads of state of Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda are driving the trade, because prosperity here requires trade. And to trade, there are so many things that are very, very crucial, which they are taking on. Some of them are very expensive. Others are doable. Let me start maybe focus on three things. One is the single customs territory. In Rwanda, it used to take 22 days to move goods from Mombasa through Uganda to Rwanda. By removing the roadblocks, the way bridges, by facilitating at the customs, at the borders, it's now moved from 22 days to 6 days to Rwanda. And for Uganda, it has moved from 18 days to 4 days, just because of simple actions that are directed by the heads of state. And the benefits are very, very clear, where you find that the container, for example, cost has reduced by almost half. And the speed, the turnaround, has increased by more than 3 times because of the decisions of the heads of states. Number two, they realize that actually, apart from the moving the goods, you also need free movement of people. And they agreed, took a decision that for us to be able to move to those 3 countries, you only need an ID card. Actually, our president was the first one to use ID card when he flew to Uganda for a summit. And also the president of Kenya did the same. And now the people are now using the ID cards, including the students. That helps in terms of the movement of the people. And also for the tourists, we have now a single tourist region, visa. And that one is very, very helpful. So that movement of people is very important. Another one that is really helping is the payment system, because you have to do the payments. Now, for the East African payment system, the central banks of Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania have now completed their own system. You can now pay for any currency with no problems. Rwanda is joining in by the end of this month. And those are the things that are really helping. But also another that is very complicated is the infrastructure in terms of railway, in terms of the
Gatete, I want to unpack all of these issues in the next hour. I think if I can just get opening comments from everybody, we're going to come back because we want to spend more time on infrastructure in particular. Jin-Yong, thank you very much for joining us. And I think it's a fantastic show of solidarity for Africa that Premier Li Keqiang joined us at the World Economic Forum on Africa, reassured us of China's stable growth, although it has slowed, forecast at 7.5% for the 2014 period. The Premier has assured us that China is expected to reach that target. China-Africa trade is also expected to explode. It's currently sitting at $200 billion or so. Many out there, optimistic or not, are saying that this is growing post $300 billion come 2015. So you're fundamental to our growth story. What can we do better for China?
Well, first of all, I'm not representing China. Unfortunately, I was not in the session. I wish I was, there listening to the Prime Minister's speech. I think Africa has a great opportunity, and I'm an optimistic person as well. But to realize that potential, the key really is to, this morning we have a session to put our house in order. There are several key themes we need to do. One is really to fill the gap on infrastructure and to make our economy competitive. And the second, really, to establish a competitive real industry sector